Corita basically says that before you can see anything, before you can truly analyze something, you just have to look and observe. Corita Finder, it's basically a DIY tool for cropping. It becomes almost like a frame of a camera. It's like you're zooming in on a detail of something that you ignore when you have to take the entirety into consideration. So I teach classes in branding. A logo is viable if it can work like really, really small on a business card, or if it can work large on, let's say, like a billboard. And like if you print something out really, really small, you start to realize like certain details that you may have thought were super important are not that important, and they actually are like filling in, so you may not need them, or they overcomplicate things. And then if you blow something up really, really large, not only does it recontextualizes it, but it allows you to focus in or look at areas that you may have overlooked. So when I'm designing a logo, like all of a sudden if it's really big, I can see like the curve isn't as smooth as maybe I wanted it to be. So it allows me to see or look at details in a way I've never thought of before. Corita is asking that you actively look on different scales, I think. Like, I think Corita asks us to actively look at what's in front of us, like what's on my table right now, right? But I do think by her act of asking us to look is also the through line for us being like more critical about our world. And I think what she's saying is, if you can't even look, how do you think critically about it? One of the things that I start to explore in my own practice is this concept of identity. And as a child, so I'm Indian American, I'm a child of Indian immigrants. And as a child, I would often travel back to India with my parents. And I would be looking very intensely at my relatives and the environment around me. And as a child, I was just looking. I couldn't quite analyze like how this was part of my identity and how I fit in. I was just really looking at what was happening around me. And it wasn't until later in life that I was able to like actually process those experiences and then analyze those experiences and write about them and have them dictate my artwork and my career path. But it was like the act of looking and observing which laid the groundwork for these other concepts that I would pursue later. Recently, I did a project which ended up being a projection art piece, but it started with the simple act of looking. So via Google Earth, I actually looked at an architectural development down in Florida, and I just stared at the forms of the architecture, and I started sketching the shapes I saw in the architectural forms in my notebook. I was kind of combining Corita's idea with Joseph Alber's ideas of just looking at form and then putting forms next to each other to see what else would happen, but just looking at them from a formal quality, nothing else. First, look at something, something on your table, out the window, and try to find shapes within it. Draw those shapes and see if you can combine those shapes together. Once you've drawn your shapes, add some color to them and redraw the shapes in different colors. And then all of a sudden you'll almost have like a bunch of playing cards of shapes, and you can start combining them together. And they're going to reveal not only different colors, but different shapes and different compositions once you've started combining them together. Then start scaling it up or down. And you can do this like physically, like analog or in a digital context too.